All right, as I open up my meticulously organized digital art file for this semester and go to my GIF transformation assignment, assignment 5, I'll see that we've done a lot so far. There's a reason this has been a longer project. And I need to open up my final stage PSD. I don't need to worry about my assets anymore because where I left off in the last tutorial was just finishing the last animated frame. So now it's about making sure the timing and the visuals are everything it can be. And you can call this the editing phase. You know, we've done all the principal photography. We have them all in order here. Uh-oh. I feel like there should be more frames than that. So let's see. Oh no, I'm good. So what do? I've already flattened all of these. I've kind of taken the pictures and I flattened all of them into clean layers in my stage. So every layer here is 100% opacity on normal mode. And now just to get them to play through on the timeline, it's like exposing the reel of film. I'm going to make frames from layers. I'm going to set them all at a default timing. This is the problem with waiting between classes for things. I forget what timings I had chosen, but I think it was 0.2. And then there was a group here, I think between 40 and 44, but to make sure I marked them with a color here. Yes, so frames 40 through 44, I wanted to go faster. This is just rough editing, but I wanted to go to 0.1 seconds. Play it through forever. Let's start at the beginning. And you can see this is in millions of colors. This is in full resolution. It moves pretty smoothly. And in this newest version of Photoshop that we're using, the timing that is represented here is pretty much the real timing it would play back even when it's reduced. In older versions, you could have really quick timing here, but the lag of processing would slow it down. But this looks like it's in real time. Okay, so in the editing phase, you can basically decide where is it taking too long. And I like the end. I think that's kind of just about perfect. I think it's taking a little too long, him just hanging out here with the clouds and stuff rolling in. Because I was just doing a lot with the mist. I didn't really need to. So I'm going to leave some on the cutting room floor. So I'm going to take out that frame. It's not deleting the layer, but it's taking out the frame entirely. And then this frame, that fog seems mighty heavy. Let me just take that out entirely. Yeah, that's feeling a little bit snappier. Oops, did I just do something? Yeah, this one I think I'm going to take out too. So if there's moments that just seem to drag, you can just play it through, stop them. Yeah, that one I don't think I need. And this is the nice thing about having a movement cycle that can be disrupted and not hurt too much. It kind of gets to the point. It gets to the climax more quickly. Let's see. It feels like the mist flickers for a moment as well. Yeah, right there. So it's there, then it's not, then it's there again. And that's just, I went a little bit too far down on the opacity. So I'm going to get rid of that one in the middle. And I try to be pretty brutal with my editing, because no one wants to just be staring at something, waiting for something to happen. But it is good to be slower at the beginning than at the end, right? So setting up a story should take a little bit longer than paying it off. So here he's happy, you wonder what's going to happen, you start to notice the mist comes in, the storm comes in, the lightning hits him really fast. And then all of that's just kind of a surprise. All right, So if I like this timing, if everything's good, then I'm going to save it right now. File, save. This is a PSD file. Everything works here. All my timeline frames are set. If I wanted to play a little bit more with timing, I could, with like the exact lightning strike, but I won't bore you with that because that can take forever. Or I could even do things like be really picky and say on this frame, I want to have just a hint of the next frame showing. Or maybe even a hint of this future frame showing. And I want to set it at a screen mode. And I want to turn it down even lower opacity. And I can see how that looks really quick. Yeah, and it's one of the fast frames. And does that really make a difference? I have no idea. But that's the kind of fine-tuning I could do. See, without it, yeah, I kind of like it. Because without it, it just feels like there's lightning, a low opacity over him. It doesn't feel like it charges the air. This charges the air a little bit. There we go. All right. Good. Now I could pick it to death, but that's not really what GIF animations are for. Like for instance, I notice when it's moving that the lighting on the thigh of the creature is a little distracting as it goes from darker there to brighter there. And how could I fix that? I could go to that frame, 65, whatever frame's on here, and I could just very lightly erase it out. And then turn on the frame behind it, right? Because that makes it up. So now that will match a little bit better. And I could even turn on the frame above it, select this thigh, which is brighter, because that's what's really catching my eye, duplicate it, add it as a new layer on within this frame. And then soften that with an eraser. So the transition is clean. Okay. But then I have to take that frame out of every other layer besides number 65. Because remember, whenever you add a layer and you have frames already outputted, it will add that thigh to every layer. And this is the only layer where I actually want it. So now it jumps just a little bit earlier. So now on 64, I can turn that thigh on and just fade it in a little bit. And voila, I don't have any glittering thigh anymore. It transitions nicely. So lots of nitpicking you can do. Well, it's still a full resolution Photoshop file, which means you can zoom in and you can see it all and it runs pretty smoothly. But there's no reason to save a GIF at a high resolution. It will just increase the likelihood of errors and make it take forever to load onto a website. So once you've saved it as your Photoshop at full resolution, I am going to highly, highly recommend, no matter how many frames you have, but especially if you have more than 50 frames making your animation, going to image and image size and reducing its resolution to 100 pixels per inch, having resample turned on. And then if you're doing a square animation, which I think is a smart way to do GIFs so they're kind of universally formatted with whatever website you're using them. It's like a vine that way, right? A square picture format. I do 8 by 8 inches by 100. And you notice that takes each layer down from close to 4 megabytes to closer to 2 megabytes, just under 2. So I say okay. Now the only problem with that is it really reduces the resolution, but it will help it play even smoother because it doesn't have so much of a processing burden. Now I'm not going to save that as my PSD. And I'm going to do one other step now because I got rid of a lot of layers. I'm going to go to for the last time, I'm going to go to my top layer and I'm going to say flatten frames into layers. So now I have 69 final frames for this animation after all tweaking. And all the layer files I'm going to erase so they don't take up extra memory in the processing of this GIF. There's no reason to save an animated GIF where it has a bunch of layers in its memory that it's never going to play. So you just want it to be really clean. You have 100% layers here. The animation plays through. It's at 100 pixels per inch, which is more pixels than most screens. Most screens are 72 pixels per inch. And it's at 8 by 8 inches. So if I view it even on this screen at full size, that's still plenty big for screen viewing, right? Now I get to save it as a GIF file, a graphic interchange format, which is a type of image file that's been around for a very long time. And it saves memory by reducing these millions of colors to only using 256 distinct pixel colors throughout the entire animation. So to do that, I go to File and then Export on new versions of Photoshop and Save for Web. It used to just have Save for Web right here as an option. But GIFs are becoming more and more of kind of a nostalgic thing, because you can also output high-def video from Photoshop, and I'll show you that next. Okay, so as a GIF, I like to use selective, I like to use 256 colors, and I like to use the quality standard of bicubic smoother. I can shrink it so I can see it all within the frame and play it through, make sure there's no glaring like pink pixel that's standing out. But you'll see how much grainier this looks because every gradation distortion has to be made of just this pixel grid. But that's what allows it to play through web browsers so cleanly. And that actually is to my benefit with the dust being snorted up because that looks very grainy anyway. All right, so if that looks good, I'm going to say save. I'm going to save it to the desktop, and I might change its name from stage. I might say final animation. But the important thing is that it has that GIF tag at the end that Photoshop already puts in for you. So that won't overwrite your Photoshop file because this is a graphic interchange format file, and not just any GIF file. This is one with animation built into it. That's why you have to do the save for web. If I just said File, Save As, and I choose GIF as my format, like a CompuServe GIF here, then it would flatten the image and just save the one frame that's visible. So that's not what I want. So GIFs aren't always animated. They're just the only way to animate through a browser without an external program. Okay, now, what if I want to output this as a perfectly fine high-def video? This is not for uploading to the web, but this is just for my own purposes. So what I can do is I can say convert to video timeline. And that just switches your view to this more like iMovie-like editor of timing. And you shouldn't have to change anything else. It should play through the same way. But what's nice about this video timeline view instead of the frame-by-frame view is then you have an option of rendering video. And I usually just render it as an MP4, and that takes a little bit of time. But that's something you can play, on your portable devices. You can play it within iTunes. And with video players installed, you can play on websites. But they won't loop endlessly. All right, so I'll just render that as an MP4 as well. Okay, in the next tutorial, I'll show you how we upload that GIF and then how we make our final clean storyboard. So I've got my GIF here and soon to